There's a fantastic old rectory, because we are close to the church, even though it's on a different road to this, but it's just across the fields. I'm sure you can get there pretty quickly, or you used to be able to. There's a fantastic surviving rectory building, now known as Glebe House. Dates to the early 1700s. I won't be able to sneak through his gates. There it is. That is magnificent. Brilliant. Glebe Cottage on the left also dates back to the 1600s. Heading down from the priest's house back towards the lane, just to prove we're close to the church. There it is, which we will see later. But in the old days, they wouldn't be bothering with roads, they'd have just gone straight across the fields. Right, we're heading back up to the lane, which sort of crosses over to the other main road, Church Street in Easton. It's a short lane with a lot of history, the first building of which will be the White Horse pub. As I said earlier, there's a lot of pubs in Easton at one stage. There was a point in time when you could open up a beer selling premises with great ease, but the licensing laws in their earliest form came in soon after, so a lot of them closed pretty quickly, and so were never open for too long. I think the White Horse was probably one of those. It was a struggle to find any reference to the White Horse in any of the documents that I have. But the private residence owner still refers to it as the White Horse, which is good, keeps it alive. A lovely crooked building, the White Horse. Sure you can see that date stamp at the top, 1742. That's old. Time for another pub. The Slater's Arms on the left here. Pubs everywhere. Big building on the right here was the 1600s manor house. Got a better view of it on Church Street actually, but yeah, is the manor house. Grand building. There you go. Better view of the manor house, built late 1600s. Extensively modified in the 1800s, like most of these old ones. Lovely building. It's quite strange that some of the grand old buildings are not listed, but these two pillars on the either side of the coach house gateway here with the balls on top are listed, dating to 1700s. Weird. Most of these buildings on the right here date to 1600s. There's a date stamp on there which I think says 1638. They're all old. Everything's old. I feel quite at home here. It's an old Wesleyan Methodist chapel here. It's that one there. Doesn't look like a Wesleyan Methodist chapel. Is it that one? Should be called Chapel House. That should be the clue. These lovely buildings here. That one on the right is seriously cute. Seriously cute. Moonbeam Cottage. Lovely. No, it's just the front of a bigger house. Still cute. Can't tell you anything about that one apart from it's got an 1839 and 1902 date stamp on the wall. Very nice though. I think I've got an old photograph taken pretty much from here. In fact, I know I have. I will put it up in a sec. Not that it's changed a lot apart from there's cars everywhere. We're at the church. All Saints Church, Easton on the Hill. The church does date back to sort of late Norman times, but it was massively rebuilt in the 1200s. So there's none of the really original stuff remaining, or very little. I think there's a few bits and bobs inside, which I doubt we're going to see. I mean, the star of the show is the tower, really, which I'm assured is 100 foot tall to the top of those pinnacles. Certainly an impressive tower. But that was only added in, excuse me, it was only added in the 1400s. It wasn't here on the original church. Lovely old chest tomb there. I think that's a listed chest tomb. It's an old one, and although the inscription is very, very tough to read, I'm assured it says 1768 and makes reference to John Smith and family. Someone has spent a lot of time interpreting that. The Reverend William Henry Charlton, MA, born December 1811, died May 1874. He was 26 years rector of the parish. It's a wonderful old memorial. Mary, wife of William Perkins, who departed this life June the 29th, 1862, aged 59 years. That is something different. I guess her husband's probably here as well. Yeah. Won't fall over. In memory of William Perkins, who died 16th of March 1921, aged 84, and Mary Perkins, his wife. I'm going to have to look those up, see if I can find something out about them that maybe justified such a magnificent memorial. I like to pick out a grave to do a bit of research on. And this one's very well crafted and looks like it was only put up yesterday, but dates back a long, long way. William Meadwell died December the 5th, 1868, aged 50, and also two sons who died in their infancy. Also of Jane, wife of the above, who died July the 24th, 1893, aged 71 years. May they rest in peace. I'll try and dig up a little bit of fame for them. I love these old doors, particularly the ironwork, because I always assume, and probably quite rightly so, that they were probably created by a sort of iron worker in the village, probably a blacksmith. Been around a bit, that one. These things follow me around. What they're doing on a church, an ordnance survey mark, which we've seen a few of in my videos. That's quite a nice clean one. Not sure we're going to get anywhere near the insides, but we've got to try, as the outer door seems to be open. It looks like it could be open. But that is a Norman arch. That's good to see. Wasn't expecting that. Nice smooth one piece Norman arch. Lovely. Find a way in. We're in. Make sense of that. I think it's a window. Could even be a Norman window, actually, potentially. What's happened is they built out. This used to be the side of the church. That was a window on the side of the church. At some point, hundreds of years ago, they would have pushed out to what are currently the outer walls to make the church bigger. Because I don't know too much about this church, I don't want to be declaring anything in too factual a way, but I notice on the right here, all these arches come to a point at the top, which means they're post-Norman. The ones on the left are rounded, which suggests, although they're not one piece, but I suggest they're probably older without necessarily being Norman. I don't know, I'm guessing really. No idea how old the font is. It doesn't look particularly old. I'm sure someone will come back and tell me it is. But I don't think it's Norman or anything. It seems to be all original from top to bottom. We're on the inside of that old door now. It looks even older on the inside. Look at that lock. Fantastic. That is old. The whole door is old. I love this one to the left. I don't know if people were a lot shorter back then, but I certainly wouldn't get through there very easily. Okay, there's your church. Not too much to see. A few bits of late Norman. Keeps me interested. Good to get in. Always appreciate churches that are open, as they should be. Welcome to our visitors. If I had any money, I'd put it in the box, but I only have a card. Got caught out there because they've got a card machine. Never seen a card machine in a church before. Tap to give £5, eh? I think that worked. It beat. Yeah, I'm not going to risk doing it a second time, but I think that worked. So If not, I apologise, but I did try. Right, let's head back towards the village. Lovely village. The village where time stood still. The date stamp up on that wall, 1657, I think it says. Does it? 1637, I think. I can't read it. Right, back up at the manor house. Grand. Buildings we're coming up to on the right used to be, I think until quite recently as well, used to be the village post office. I'm pretty sure it's not now. I think the building has got a 1680 date stamp on it, but it's actually, from what I researched, was built a few years earlier than that. Yeah, there's a date stamp high up on the wall, 1680. It's a wee bit earlier. It was modernised in 1680, but it dates back earlier into the 1600s. And yeah, got to be an old post office. It's got a post box in the window. And it's a nice one too. George V. You do not see many of those. George V letterbox. Lovely building on the right here, hidden by cars, dates back to the 1600s. Used to belong to Brown's Hospital of Stamford, for what reason I do not know, and was still owned by them into the 1800s. A lot of age, a lot of age. Now my wonderful old high-res Victorian map has got the last building on the right here marked as a smithy. Can I make any sense of it? I'm sure it was a smithy. Might have been round the back. Always looking for big wide doors that have been filled in, but I don't see any, really. What I do see is ironstone brickwork at the top. I'm pretty sure that's ironstone, the brown stuff. I think from the local Ironstone Quarry. I reckon that building there was the blacksmith's. That makes sense, don't it? It's old enough. Yeah, I'll go with that. This one intrigues me, can find nothing about it. 3 stories high, Lantern Mill. I love mills. And there's no waterways, certainly not a windmill. I did try and find something out about this. I'm intrigued by anything with the word mill involved. If you know what it was, do add a note under the video, because I really would love to know about this building. Lantern Mill. This should be Neville Day Close. Sounds like a footballer more than a person of historic interest, but in Easton he was an important chap. Why, you might ask? Well, you can read for yourself. Basically, he paid for the village to have running water. Prior to that, it was all water from village pumps. 1888, running water. The actual water itself came from the very first place within the village that we stopped at, where that Polish War Memorial was. That's where the water was stored. It was a natural spring. And it would have been pumped from there. Good job. Coming back down past the pubs, the Bluebell on the left, don't think I mentioned it earlier, dates back to the 1600s. and still going today. And on the right, also from the same period, mid-1600s, was the Royal Princess pub, which is not still going today. This is where Neville Day's water supply came from. I think he's mentioned on this board, which is why I knew the name. Oh, there's even a picture of him. There you go, Neville Day. Was originally the size of an old quarry and was gifted to the parish council by the Burley estate. The area was once the source of the village's first public water supply. 2 ramp pumps were purchased and located in 2 underground rooms built into the hillside to the north, the other side of High Street. Let's go have a look. Looks like there's still water here. Running water. Very refreshing on a warm morning. Somewhere there must be a spring. Lovely little park. Very nice indeed. I think if there's any structures left of pumps or tunnels, we're not going to see them. They're going to be buried alive in that lot. But yeah, this is where the water supply to the village all started. From a natural spring that is obviously still flowing and producing water. Not enough to source the village water supply now. That was fun. Car pulled over with 2 young ladies in, rolled the window down and said, "Thanks for your great video on somewhere or other." I always amaze people, A, watch any of my videos, and B, they recognise me when I'm walking around their villages. But I'm very grateful. I'm always a bit sort of starstruck and don't really know what to say when people say, "I know who you are, I love your videos, blah blah blah." I am very, very grateful, even if I didn't come across that way when you stopped. But yeah, I appreciate you doing so. Cheers me up somewhat. Okay, in front of me we have a wonderfully scenic, manicured, well-cropped field. If you go back 110, 120 years, in front of you would have seen a different landscape altogether. Would have been a brownfield site with ravines, quarries, workers, digging up ironstone. This is where the Ironstone Quarry, or quarries, were at Easton. The quarries were never very big, so they moved them. They basically they dug out the ironstone and then they moved and dug out another quarry next door. So really all across this area, to the left here and in front, at one time or another, was an ironstone quarry. I'll put up a map here, which was towards the end. I would say this is between probably 1900 and 1920, that shows where the quarry was at that point in time. Now the bit I'm interested in is the line that runs through that map and through the quarry, because that was a railway. That was a narrow gauge railway. And right in front of me now, down in the ravine, would have been a small 040, as they called them, which just means 4 wheels, 2 either side, steam engine. And that steam engine's job was to haul the heavy, small but heavy, ironstone wagons up out of the quarry into those trees on the left there, which is where I'm going to try and head, because at some point in those trees the engine had done its job and it would hand it over to another railway, which was a sort of ropeway, gravity fed, which went down. You can't see the valley in the distance, but it's there. So I'm going to try and find whether one handed over to the other, and see if there's anything there to commemorate those days, I guess, or to help us identify what happened back in those days. The Ironstone Quarry here opened in 1873, and it existed and worked through to, I think it was 1922, and then it ended. Why did it end? Well, I mean, ironstone was highly in demand during that period of time, but by 1922 they were starting to import it from places like Scandinavia, and it was cheaper and it was better quality. So places like this were never going to last long. If I remember rightly, the steam engine survived. They moved it on to another quarry nearby. I think it lasted about another 30-40 years. I'll try and look that one up, but it kept going and ended its life at one of the other quarries in Northamptonshire. So he survived, but the quarry, as I say, stopped working about 1922. And of course, ironstone, in case you wonder what on earth it was, it's a sort of soft brown rock, heavy, not surprisingly, because treated the right way, you produce iron out of it. So it would go to sort of smelting places that would just basically melt out the iron ore that was contained in the rock. So the ironstone that was dug out here could have ended up in Corby nearby. I think there was a place near Melton Mowbray as well. Some of it went up to Scunthorpe, some went to South Wales. It went all over the place. It was highly in demand. Hard work to quarry it, but if you could get it through a railway, which was the challenge here, was to get the stone from where we are now down to the railway, which is down in the valley. If you could do that, then you could make money until the imports came in. Collecting a few stings in here. Definitely we're on the right track, literally. I think we'd be walking along the railway track. You can see this walling to the side, in fact on both sides. This was a man-made causeway of some sort, and that some sort would have been excuse me, would have been a narrow gauge railway, and somewhere up here would have been as far as the steam engine could have got, because you go off the edge of a shallow cliff really and downhill, and it wouldn't have been going downhill. These walls are getting more prominent now, so that might mean something, maybe not. Yeah, I can see something lurking in the woods in the distance. That's quite a high bank there. And what's that? Ooh. Yep, that's what I was hoping to find. This is where our steam engine would have finished. He's done his job. He's got the wagons down here, and the rest of the journey down to the Midland Railway was done by a ropeway, a rope-driven, gravity-driven tramway, a bit like a ski lift. You have a rope that the laden trucks would be attached to, and as they went down the, I think it was a 1 in 13 gradient, so it would pull up the empties from down by the Midland Railway, and so on and so forth. So it's a completely gravity-fed ropeway. They used to do it with horses. They used to do it with horses and people acting as brakes, and then they brought in this system in the last sort of 20-30 years, I think it was. And it still survives. Magnificent. Not easy getting up here. Wow, look at that. So your rope, I don't know if rope or cable or reinforced rope, something strong. It probably was more metal cable. That's a magnificent piece of kit there. And that's what the cable would have been wrapped around. So that would have been rotating as down one end, down the left I think it was, it would be letting the cable run to take the wagons down, or at least the wagons were dragging themselves down under gravity and pulling the cable, which in turn was pulling up on that side and hauling up the empty cables from down the bottom of the incline, which is some distance away. That on the left is going to be some sort of brake device, or a sort of locking it off device when they didn't want anything moving. So yeah, that would have been a brake device. I'm not quite sure where it would have fitted, maybe on the end of that incline of wood there, and maybe the cable would have run through that and onto the wheel. Oh, great to see it still surviving. See if I can get something from the other side. I'll put up a picture. This picture is not taken from here. It's a different quarry, Ironstone Quarry, but just give you a flavour of what the ropeway might have looked like, more or less, at this point, looking behind me. As the wagons headed downhill, you can just see that metal wheel on the left that we've just seen. I mean, you have to remember with these sites, these trees were not here. This would have been a brownfield site. There'd been no foliage, no trees, no bushes. That is now covering it all up. But yeah, they would be coming down. I don't know at what stage or what point the trucks were linked up to the cabling, but there is clearly an incline here to give them a bit of an acceleration, if you like, and off it would go into the distance. Something lurking through here. I know what this is. I did see a photograph of this once, but I didn't know if it was still here. Thankfully it is. When our little steam engine, Uthi, why it was called Uthi, I don't know. The quarryman called it Flossie. Flossie works better with me. Obviously Uthi means something, but I don't know what it is. That is the engine house. That's where it was kept after its day's work. Brilliant. Look at that, magnificent steam engine house. You've got the pit at the bottom here. There would have been rails just inside the sort of recessed piece there on the concrete. There'd be rails. I think it would come in from the other side, because looking down, it looks like that recess ends suddenly here. So I think the rail would have come in from the other end of the shed. And that pit would have been twice as deep. It's full of detritus now. So that people could get underneath it, clear out the old spent coal, coke, whatever, and get it ready for the next day's workings. It's fantastic to see. His home, his engine shed, is still here. Now the ropeway, which would have run behind this shed, continues down this 1 in 13 incline for some distance. Would have headed into Homewood, and Homewood is where its finale, so, and where it would have offloaded its ironstone. And I'm going to try and get down there if I can. I'm pretty sure there'll be something down there to see, so I'm going to try and find a way down. The Midland Railway is on our right here, so I'm walking in along the edge of it on the basis that our ropeway must have come down and met this railway, or at least sidings from it, somewhere not far ahead. Fingers crossed if I don't fall over. That up there is our ropeway, railway line, coming from left to right. at the bottom of the incline it reaches a sheer drop. I think where we are now, ahead of us, would have been a siding of the Midland Railway to our right, onto which there would be mineral wagons, and our wagons would have reached the end of that and would have been put into something known as a tippler mechanism, which basically tipped the trucks up and emptied them into the mineral wagons. I think I can see a couple of them there, so we're in luck. There you go, there's two of them actually side by side. Looks like they've fallen down. They would have been up on top of that. I'll try and get a better view of it, to be honest. Look at that. That is a piece of our narrow gauge railway line that the wagons would have come down to from up by the engine shed that we saw, and it's being swallowed up by a piece of wood. It's fallen down off the embankment anyway, but the tree is claiming it. Looking back up the incline down which the ropeway wagons would have come, it's quite a slope. And as it levels out here towards the end, they would have been stopped down here via some mechanism or other, and they'd be unhooked from the ropeway, and the men or quarrymen would have done the rest by hand, pushed them into tippler, empty them out, swing it round. There is a map I can put up here which shows the course of the track. You can see on the end there's like a loop. They would have pushed it back round the loop and hooked it back up to be hauled all the way back up to the ropeway start that we saw earlier. There you go. And as I say, I think the tippler wagons would have been on here, on this concrete ledge that ran along here. They would have pushed our ironstone wagons into it, and down underneath us would be some Midland Railway mineral wagons, and they would have just tipped them over the edge and filled those up. Picking up a few bits of ironstone down there. There's one here, I don't know if you can see that. It's got a fossil on it, which you used to get in ironstone. It wasn't the greatest of materials for anything other than extracting iron ore from. They did use it as a building stone, but it tended to weather. And one of the reasons it weathered was because they had these shells and fossils in them. You do see around Easton on the hill some brown looking soft rock building bricks, which is ironstone. That's nice. Right, there's Easton on the hill. Taking a shortcut back to the car. Can't be doing with walking all the way down Racecourse Road. Yeah, I mean, it's an overwhelming place. I could have spent hours going through there. You tend to go through at a speed of knots, which is kind of unavoidable. There's quite a lot of cars, quite a lot of dog walkers. I can't really stand in the middle of the road doing commentaries on people's houses, but I hope you found something of interest, and thank you very much for tuning in and coming along with me. I will make an effort to get out again sometime before next spring, if I can find somewhere else to have a look around. And by all means, as I said earlier, if you've got an idea, if you live in a village, if you know a village within the broader Peterborough area that looks interesting and has some old history there, yeah, drop me a line or put a comment under the video, and I'll have a look and see if it's worth coming out. And again, as I mentioned earlier, my descriptions of Easton on a Hill were a bit skeletal, so if you know a little bit more about some of the places that I've seen and maybe not understood, please put your comments under the video, either on YouTube or on Peterborough Images, and I will be interested, and I'm sure a few others will too. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time out.